Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into SEC Nightly, the nightly show dedicated to the top news and notes in the nation's top conference. As always, I'm your humble host, Brooks Austin. And tonight we're going to be joined by Cole Thompson, one of the best out here doing it, knows just about everything about NFL free agency, which helps him with the NFL draft, right? And we'll be talking Combine tonight with Cole Thompson. We'll be talking Joe Burrow's comments on whether or not he will end up playing for Cincinnati if they do indeed draft him at number 1 overall. We'll talk to Tagovailoa's timetable, when he will be healthy. We got some news on that this week as well, as all these guys talked to the media over the last 48 hours or so. And, can Henry Ruggs, is he going to break the 40 time? That's one of the top storylines headed in this week, right? We all love to see these guys run fast, right? And Henry Ruggs is going to be one of those to do it. Clavon Chaisson not going to participate in the on-field drills, one of several LSU Tigers national champions that will not be participating on the on-field drills in Indianapolis. And we'll talk a little bit of the small backs, man. Show the small guys some love. It is the year of the small running back, it seems, with some of the top guys in the draft being a little bit undersized. So we'll talk about all of that, of course, with my boy Cole Thompson. We'll patch him in just in a second. Got him in the back of the studio, back there hanging out. Anyways, but before we get into that, we got to ask you for some support however you found us, whether it be podcasts, whether it be on our live show. Show us some support wherever you found us. Give us those thumbs ups, whatever it is. We'll stop wasting your time there as we always do. Let's patch my boy Cole in. Cole is of allaggies.com. Again, one of the best doing it. Let's bring him in. Cole, how we doing tonight, my brother?
I mean, you know me. I'm always covering something, and A&M had a big-time game tonight. They played number 8 Kentucky in basketball, and what was supposed to be probably a close game was just that. It just wasn't as close as a lot of people wanted it to be, a 69-60 finish for the Wildcats. Nice. They're going to go probably win the SEC, at least regular season title. They have a matchup against Auburn, which I think will decide the SEC regular season title game for them. If they win this game, I think it'll be too much for them to contain. But A&M basketball, they are making a run. They went on a 3-0 stretch, beating your Georgia Bulldogs, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Buzz Williams was running in contention for SEC Coach of the Year. And with a 9-point loss to a top 10 ranked Kentucky team, I still think he ranks somewhere in that line. It's just right now, does he fit that mold of probably a guy who can win in the big-time games? They have a chance against Auburn next week. If they get that, I definitely think he'll be in the running.
Man, burying the lead. We're opening with hoops talk. How about that? I love it, Cole Thompson. But anyways, let's get right into it. We got some Combine stuff, right? All these guys faced the media in the last couple hours. We'll start with Joe Burrow, one of the culprits of the small hands epidemic, right? Measured in right at 9 inches. I see the eyes rolling over there. But anyways, the main news he broke today, or the main point main reason he's in the news is because he did, confirm that it doesn't matter who takes him, whoever takes him, he's a ball player. Quote, "I'm not going to not play. I'm a ball player. Whoever takes me, I'm going to show up." So, as expected, Cole Thompson, what do you expect? Assuming, do you just go ahead and mark him off 1.1, right? Number 1 overall pick to the Cincinnati Bengals, or has he already checked all the boxes? Is there still evaluation left, I guess is the question.
Well, I think it really based off of how Justin Herbert plays this week down the Combine. That would be the one thing that I think would definitely be something that maybe we look at as, why would they not take him? And one of the biggest things that he did say in a very humbling way was, it's not that I think that I'm the number 1 player. It's that I believe that if they fall in love with somebody else down here in Indianapolis, that doesn't guarantee me the number 1 spot, which could be the case. One person I spoke to recently said that the Bengals were enamored with the way Herbert finished the season and his velocity that he showed down at the Senior Bowl. You have to remember that they got to spend more one-on-one time with Herbert as well down in Mobile, getting to see him and getting to kind of get to know him a little bit more. So that might be the case. Unless Herbert makes a huge time improvement, looking like a legitimate day 1 starting quarterback, I think you can mark off Joe Burrow as the pick. The biggest thing is how he's going to perform if Herbert performs well at the Combine at his pro day on April 3rd. That I think would be the only reason where if he starts to struggle, maybe you see a push for him. But right now, I think it's a done deal. Just mark him 1. The draft really starts at 3 unless something happens with Washington passing on Chase Young out of Ohio State.
So there's absolutely no chance that, maybe is Cincinnati's obviously going to sit down with Tua. Is there any chance the, quote unquote presence, or could he blow him away in the interview enough to cement Burrow there without the on-field performance? I know we talked about what Herbert could do, blow him away, all that cold weather talk. He's going to be massive. He's going to rip the football. We know that. He's going to be able to spin it. But is there any chance that what Tua does in those rooms, on those boards with those GMs and scouts, is there any chance that he cements Burrow for one?
I mean, I don't think Tua can cement himself as a number 1 player just with that injury risk factor. That's always going to be something that lingers on
Fair.
a lot of teams. Where at least Burrow comes in healthy. Yeah, he will be a little older at 23 years old. He's actually 8 months older than Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP of the NFL right now. 8 months is a lot when you look at a guy who's been in the league 2 years versus a rookie. But at the same time, I don't see it where you can justifiably say, yeah, we're going to go with an injured play quarterback out of a year. I like the plan if they were to go with Tua Tagovailoa because of Cincinnati has so many problems. I mean, this is not we draft a quarterback, we're going to be in the playoffs. No, they're much like Miami in this sense. They still have to fix a lot more issues on both the defensive side of the ball and in the offensive production with wide receivers. Probably you need to add a couple more offensive linemen. There's a ton of holes in Cincinnati to where Burrow's not going to be the fix, and neither is Tagovailoa. But I do think Tagovailoa could move his draft stock up. Wow, that is such a tongue twister to say. You can move it up with a good interview process, and that number 3 pick becomes a big enigma now if the Detroit Lions are willing to trade out of that spot, and also if they are willing to trade Matthew Stafford for a younger mobile quarterback such as Tagovailoa to build off of the future of the program.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always going to be a matter about the health, right? And you hit on it. And it was the ankles first. That would be my primary concern. With the news out of the hip is that it's recovering relatively well. Those ankles, man, he had a lot of microsurgeries, if I'm not correct, Cole, right? Where they went in there and cleaned stuff up and then rushed him back onto the field to get him healthy. It seemed like something that kept getting banged up. And I know, a primary, maybe a good case study for a guy like Tua would be maybe to look at what Steph did with the ankle treatment, at least. I don't know, the football and the basketball is different, but you can treat the ankle the same way, strengthen it back up, because Steph Curry had horrendous ankles there for a while prior to his, MVP stretch, but this isn't an NBA basketball show. Speaking of Tua, let's talk about this timetable, Cole. Set to be cleared, so he says March 9th by the doctor. Quote, after that, it's all go, full go, getting ready for the pro day down there in Tuscaloosa on April 9th. So they set it up perfect, get him a month clear. Well, at the best case scenario, he would have more than a month, right? But they set it up to the point where he'll have a full month to get ready to go and after being cleared. So what do you expect to see from Tua there at the pro day? And, I guess how healthy really it end up being?
Yeah, I think with the pro day, the biggest thing is he's still going to have that velocity to move inside and outside the pocket and feeling the pressure. There's always a drill where they do have fake pass rushers go against you to see mobility inside the pocket. That's going to be the one thing that I look at when you look at Tagovailoa. And if
something that he was fascinating, when you watched him when he was healthy, one of the best I've ever seen at that level, like his ability to just move within the pocket, which honestly, I always take it back to offensive line play. As a former offensive lineman, when you know where the quarterback's going to be, when he always stays on his spot and stays as long as he can on the spot, it helps you tremendously as a blocker because you can keep that defensive end between you and him. When the quarterback immediately bails the pocket, it makes things so much harder. But that is the question, right? Is he going to be able to drive on that leg and plant and move in and out on those drills? And how much will we be able to show?
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be something that you want to look at specifically with his ability to move in the pocket, because if that was his biggest strength and asset during his time in Tuscaloosa. But I think the biggest thing overall is he going to be that still mobile quarterback that can feel the pressure, evade the sacks, and be able to play in an offensive line that maybe is struggling? A lot of teams and a lot of mock drafts are having him go to Miami right now, which did struggle. They were better last year than the year before, even without the likes of Laramie Tunsil, who was traded for 2 first-round picks last year. Oh, yeah, I know. It's crazy.
It's so rough, man. It's like, the whole purpose of tanking, right, is to originally or eventually get a good quarterback, and then you trade the 25-year-old tackle that's eventually going to protect him. It just and then package Kenny Stills for nothing, right? You just get him out of there. And I understand. I mean, if you know, it's a whole nother topic, but if you know the background with Kenny Stills and that ownership down there, you understand why. But, it's a whole other story. But go ahead, Cole. I digress.
No, I mean, the biggest thing that you looked at right now is he going to be able to have that same presence that he was able to do at Alabama? And a lot of, mock drafts are having him go to Miami, who does have a weaker offensive line, and Detroit that does not have the best offensive line play right now, even though they have used, I believe, three of their last four drafts, addressing at least one member on that offensive line. So when you look at all that combined together, does this mean that he's going to be able to play in one of those two systems where it is going to be a problem, where he is going to take sacks? And if that's the case, I think all that does is that solidifies him as probably, if not I would say top 5 pick, at least a top 10 pick, probably falling no further than a team like Carolina at pick number 7.
All right, let's get into this Henry Ruggs talk, right? I don't know if it's possible. I was doing some research prior to the show. I mean, obviously 4.22 the record with John Ross, right? Back in 2017. Henry Ruggs, very, very, a lot bigger, right, than John Ross, but, expected to run really, really fast this week. 4.22 is really, I mean, it's obviously the record, right? It speaks for itself. But Henry Ruggs on the record saying the fastest, unofficial one he's been clocked at so far is a 4.25. Now, I don't know if he's burying the lead or sandbagging a little bit for a big show come this week, which I like how they moved it to prime time. That's awesome. Yeah. We get to watch, at least here on the East Coast. For those West Coasters out there, man, when they used to kick the combine off at 9 a.m., man, that is rough. Here on the East Coast, you're getting up at 6 a.m. trying to watch combine. But anyways, Ruggs, 4.22. Is it possible? Cole Thompson, you have the floor.
I mean, I think anything is possible when you look at the way his vertical speed was his biggest X factor at Alabama. And I do think that this is going to be the week that he shines out and represents himself as his own player, not just part of the 4 horsemen of Tuscaloosa, which is what I always called Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, and him combined together with Tua Tagovailoa. Because if he's not going to be paired up with Jerry Jeudy and you're going to be able to kind of see him on his own, I think that he's going to be one of the biggest winners walking away from Indianapolis at the end of the week and solidifying himself as a top 15 easy selection. You can mark it down on your big boards as that will be his ceiling. I think his floor is going to be Denver at pick 15. If he does run in that anywhere even a 4.25 range, I mean, there's only a handful of players who've even reached the 4.2 range. If he can reach that, speed kills, and there are teams that love to draft speed receivers. A team like the Las Vegas Raiders, known for the history of Al Davis and what he was able to do out in Oakland and what he was able to do in Los Angeles, he loved having speed guys. That's why when he selected Darius Hayward-Bay back in the 2011 NFL draft, so many people were blown away that he was the 7th overall selection. But at the same time, it shouldn't shock that many people because he always went after speed. With a 4.25 even, if he does beat a 4.22, you can solidify him, I think, as a top 10 pick, and someone's going to trade up to get him just for his vertical presence. Listen, speed will always get you somewhere in the NFL, and if you have a quarterback that is known for a deep arm, you're going to want to be able to get him a weapon that can expand the field deep downfield. A guy like Henry Ruggs is someone who I think will solidify his draft status up in Indianapolis, and anywhere in that 4.28 to 4.21 range definitely puts him in that top 10 category for wide receivers off speed alone. He has the hands, and we know he has the speed.
Yeah, it's very rarely you see a guy in the SEC where he makes other people look slow, right? There's clips in the Auburn game. I mean, the Auburn game alone is just an absolute highlight tape from the kid. Or Jalen Waddle went off as well. But he just walks away from guys, in game tape. And it's rather rare to see, right? In the Pac-12, I kind of expect to see it. I mean, we saw it from John Ross. But John Ross didn't really, to me, show the ability to control his speed, right? To know when to back in and off the gas, to create the space at the end of the route. That's not what I see from Ruggs, and it's a guy who hasn't been playing the position very long. So Cole, the ceiling is still yet to be reached with a prospect like this as well. So I think that's why you favor him over a guy like Judy. Is that fair to say? I mean, obviously you favor him. You're saying he's going to be in that top 12 to 15 range, maybe even top 10. So you favor him over Judy, correct?
I mean, if I had to pick right now, I think that there's more of you don't know what you have with Ruggs where you know what you have with Judy. This is a guy who's a possession receiver, kind of a lot like DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be a guy that you're going to target probably 115 times per game. Maybe he's not a double-digit touchdown reception guy, but he is a guy that you're going to bring out and make the best of his situation. Surefire hands, a reliable option at multiple positions. Ruggs is kind of like that Swiss Army knife, kind of you can mold him by your clay kind of style. He has the size at 6'2" to be a vertical threat receiver on the outside or a bigger slot receiver, depending on your scheme of offense that you decide to run. And he has that vertical threat presence. A guy like John Ross, who came in at 5'11", is basically loaded into the slot. And if he's playing on the outside, you know it's a vertical pass. That's all you know with him. With a guy like Ruggs, you can play him in multiple schemes and have him run multiple routes and allow his speed to work in yards after the catch. That's why I have him as my wide receiver one over both CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, because of he's so unproven, because he came from an offense where it was Jeudy first, other weapons second. That was all it was at Alabama. If Jeudy wasn't open, everyone else got to have a little bit of the piece. And even he was wide receiver three when you think about it, because of Devontae Smith's size as the split end on the outside. That also factored into it as well. So I think Ruggs is the guy that you can kind of mold into your own offense and have a little bit more fun with him. I don't know if you can do that with a guy like CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy as much because of what they were doing in college.
Fair point. Fair point. Well, all right. First of all, audience, when you hear a guy say that's why he's my wide receiver one, that guy does draft takes. That guy knows his draft takes. Okay, that's draft takes 101. He's my wide receiver two. He's my wide receiver one. All right, we will move on to a guy who probably is your edge one or two. We'll talk about it a little bit here in a bit. Clavon Chaisson not going to participate, along with a handful of LSU guys. Now, I know this is on the show sheets for Clavon in specific, but he's one of three LSU guys that aren't going to participate in the on-field drills. It's he, Joe Burrow, and Thaddeus Moss, who I think is the one where we probably should focus our main concern. I understand why Burrow's not going to throw. That is kind of the norm for guys who are assumed to be pick number one. Okay, Chaisson, a little bit questionable other than my selfish own needs. I wanted to see him run. I wanted to see what it was going to look like because I imagined it was going to be around like a 4.65, something along like that. Wanted to see him bend a little bit in some of these short shuttle drills and all that good stuff. We know he's going to do it. I just wanted to see him light it up for selfish reasons because I like seeing guys go fast. Big guys like that go fast as well. But Thaddeus Moss, a little bit questionable here. And I wonder, Cole, is this because he kind of maybe new? He doesn't look like a guy that's going to ever blow up a combine. Is it maybe he was advised to do this, or what's the story on Thaddeus Moss? What's your thoughts, Cole? You see him with a stink face over there.
I mean, it just is weird for me because if there's no legit number one tight end in this year's class. So any one of the guys right now can kind of make or break their status by coming to the combine. And a guy like Thaddeus Moss, son of Randy Moss, he has the NFL pedigree. He knows the kind of systems that are run in the NFL. He could have been a guy that could have really boosted his grade into a top 50 selection if he was to perform well down in Indianapolis. The problem now is that he doesn't perform up there. Is there an injury concern? Is there something going on with him personally? Is there a reason why he's sitting out because of, maybe his family told him, if you don't do it, you have a better shot at your pro day. You can also kind of limit the teams that come to your pro day. You can kind of figure out which teams are really targeting you and where you can kind of fall into that category. Those are all kind of enigmas that you look at that will come into fruition, I think, on April 3rd at LSU's pro day down in Baton Rouge. But the reality of it is he wasn't going to be a first-round pick. I think that's kind of a given right now. But anywhere in that mid-second to third-round range could have been where he made his money right here this upcoming week. Now you have to wait a week and see what the biggest deal is with him. And when other tight ends, just like Cole Kmet or Bryson Hopkins at Purdue or Notre Dame, respectively, they can now boost their stock, and teams will no longer worry about trading up for a tight end when they can just kind of wait to see where you fall. And at the end of the day, what this all really matters is it's contract guarantees and money, and it's years guaranteed on a contract depending on how well you do. Each round that you drop, you also drop about $1 million plus more contract guarantees into that style. So those are all questions where I just wonder what went wrong, what is the reasoning behind it, and it doesn't really make sense, especially with no tight end really solidifying themselves, even after Mobile, as the number one tight end to go in this year.
I mean, I'll tell you who my tight end number one is, and it's Cole Kmet for me because I got to see him a little bit in person, and dude flat out dominated. Right,
Yeah.
I believe first game back after a broken hand or something of the sorts during the spring. And this is also a guy, Cole, who is, I believe, 93, 94 off the bump in baseball as well. So a dual sport athlete there at no. Who was the long hair guy? Ended up going Samardzija, Jeff Samardzija,
Yeah,
a former tight end like NFL prospect going to play baseball in the league. I don't think that's where. Yep. Also, well, that was the whole comparison right there, Cole. Thank you. Anyways, Cole Kmet, tight end number one. I think he's going to blow up the combine this week. I think he's going to run well. He's going to look well in field drills as well. Probably not going to blaze like a 4.58. But he's probably going to run like a solid 4.68, 4.7 flat, and he's a big body tight end, just around 6'6", I believe 258, 260 pounds. So back to the Thaddeus Moss thing, though. Talk about a guy who needed to show up and show out he can be a little bit explosive. This is a guy who's on the list, or at least on the directory at 6'2", 250. That's a tight end in the NFL nowadays that's got to show he's got juice, right? Got to show he can separate and do something after the catch as well, with a little bit of explosive, because he's not going to be, quote-unquote, a big body target in the league. So I would have liked to seen him run, which makes you wonder, back to the discussion, has he been advised to not do it, or is he injured? So we'll move on from that. We're already about 22 minutes into the show here tonight, Cole. The year of the small running back, Cole, I'll let you take this one away. We got DeAndre Swift and a litany of other guys. I know there's a handful, most Swift and Travis Etienne over there at LSU lead the way. A year of the small running back. Take it away, Cole Thompson.
Well, it's actually Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU.
What did I say? My bad. Good Lord, man. I had Etienne on my mind because we left him off our list. He's also, but he's not. He's going back to Clemson.
So it doesn't not matter. But one measured in at 5'8" with DeAndre Swift. One measured in at 5'7". Here's the biggest problem when you look at these small running backs. It doesn't hurt their draft stock in a sense if you have a stability at your lead back. If you need a secondary runner to pair with the guy who's going to get those 225, 240 carries a season, there you go. Take a second-round pick on him if you think that he's going to make your offense that much better. But with those smaller backs comes limited roles. You can't really use them unless you want to use them as a human bowling ball on third-down conversions or out of the backfield. Guys like Tariq Cohen and James White are the enigma, but they also are used based off the scheme that they fit in. Matt Nagy uses Tariq Cohen in multiple formations. One especially that he uses is on the flip pass forward that got the pass towards
jet sweep motion
and a jet sweep motion. Meanwhile, where you have James White, third down passing offensive guy, swing route off the edge from Tom Brady, picks up that first down. Sometimes a short yardage, he'll do a quick flip to the outside on a pitch. Those are things that White solidifies himself as. If you aren't at that exact same speed of a guy who's 6'1", if you aren't at that exact same speed or physicality with your body when you do the bench press as a 6'2" runner who has 210 pounds on him, all those factors start coming in as how durable is this guy and how many carries can he take in the NFL game before we have to take him out. All that adds together as question marks, I think, with Swift especially because of he right now is in that category of first-round conversation for running back. So I think now you have to look at someone like, I think, J.K. Dobbins, who has a little bit more size on him to maybe move up into that category, or someone like Jonathan Taylor who can move up into that first-round conversation for that pick number 25 where Swift has been mocked with the Miami Dolphins. Also, Steve Hyland. Guys are also 40 pounds bigger on the defensive line than when Barry Sanders played, so that's going to be a problem. I mean, just that's the reality of the game. I mean, when they get bigger, you need bigger running backs. And that's why Derrick Henry led the NFL in rushing this year because of you have a 240-pound back that you're not able to stop.
Cole, why you taking shots at the audience, man?
I'm not trying to take shots at the audience. I'm just saying when you look at big running backs, that's because of bigger defensive linemen and bigger edge rushers. All that is part of the game nowadays.
All right, here's the
running backs.
Here's the counterpoint. Okay, DeAndre Swift may not be your prototypical 6-foot back, right? He is small, right? He is 5'8.5". But the thing is, he's so thick, right? He's 220 pounds almost, weighed in at 215, 218 pounds. So he's thick, right, in the lower half. And what it is about for DeAndre Swift and guys like Edwards-Helaire over there at LSU, it's about being able to make the first defender miss. It's something that, DeAndre Swift did all year and for the better part of his career at the University of Georgia. All was made about that offensive line at Georgia over the last, year and a half or so, how dominant they were and obviously how big they are. Averaged about 6'5" front and about 330 pounds. So NFL size offensive lineman. But the thing about that is they were running so many pro style offenses, so many heavy tight end formations. There was often 7, 8 guys in the box, safety rolled down. So numbers are just numbers. You can't account for everybody. What ends up happening is there's a free defender. That's what we talk about, leaving one for the running back, right? The running back's got to make a guy miss. Oftentimes for DeAndre Swift, unlike a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who played in a wide-open system with a guy, next to him, like a Justin Fields, they didn't have to necessarily make that guy miss until 6 or 7 yards downfield. DeAndre Swift often having to do it in the hole. So that's why I think he has the ability at the NFL level to be a 3-down back, right? To stay on the field on first down because he's always gaining ground. He's always being a positive back. I think, take the off the field concerns, off the field, keep it off the field. Just pro comparisons, he looks a lot like Ray Rice, just in the frame. Obviously not as thick as Rice ended up being, but coming out of college, very, very similar. That shifty the dead leg is famous, right, from DeAndre Swift, but all of that stuff alike is what I think the comparison for Ray Rice is going to be, right? A guy that may not rip off 80-yard touchdown runs because he doesn't run 4.48, and also a guy that's not going to run you over, but is always going to be a guy that at the end of the day has, 12, 15 carries, and he's averaging 6.5, 7 yards a carry. So that's what it is for me in DeAndre Swift, the small, but the ability to make a man miss. Cole, I know that was long. Go ahead.
To me, it's not the problem with him being small. It's the problem with him being durable. It takes one from a 6'6" defender to the knees, and you're done, and you're out here. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm saying that it is something that you do look at for something that you need for a, I think, 3-down back. That's me not saying – that's not saying that DeAndre Swift is not going to be successful in the NFL.
No, I just have to pump the brakes because he played 15 games as a freshman. He played 14 games as a sophomore. He played 14 games as a junior. Even when he had a banged-up shoulder, he was so damn tough they couldn't keep him off the field, Cole. So I don't think it's going to be – the shoulder, and I see the size for you is the questions, right? But again, I've already told you, he's thicker. He's about as thick as you can see. When you see him in person, he's built like an NFL back is built, just like Brian Herrien is, who's a guy that measured in at 5'11", 220 plus. So you don't come out of the NFL, that NFL environment over there at Georgia and not have spent time in the weight room. And a former 5-star high school athlete, the dude has the genes, right? Everyone knows who his daddy is. He's all over TV because how big he is, right? The guy's got the genes, and he's not one of these, like the kid that we might talk about, the 5'5" kid out of Arizona. It ain't that. Trust me.
Yeah,
and like we talked about, it's not like he can't take the load. When you watched him against your Texas A&M Aggies, who finished those games off? The guy had like 12 straight carries in the fourth quarter in an SEC game on a muddy field. And got the first down when needed to be. So
yeah, he did.
I don't question the durability because again, all I see is toughness. Like I kind of know what happened this year. Nothing I can say because it's medical stuff, but it's toughness is all I know. And he's going to stay on the field, but the size is what your general concern about of the safety, right? 6'6" linebackers, I get it.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And Steve, I'm not hating on the Dogs and I'm not hating on Swift. I actually think that he will be a productive back because of you do look at the history of Athens running backs. They have been successful in the NFL, and that's part of the tradition that we can just look back at and see the success of them, especially with the newer guys and Todd Gurley and Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. I think that he comes from that product where he will be successful. The problem is, what does success mean? If he's a 10-touchdown guy on 45 receptions, that's successful, and it does have a role in the NFL. It just, to me, makes sense of where the draft stock is. I still think that he is at least anywhere in that running back 1, 2, or 3 range, depending on how you put it. You put him, Dobbins, and Taylor all together. I think you can not go wrong with any one of them. It's all based off the scheme you want to run. For me, basically, this just means he's not a first-round running back, and he was the only guy I think I had a first-round grade on coming into this whole draft process. The size worries me because I'm not sure if he can be that durable back at the next level, but that does not mean he won't be successful. There's many ways to be successful in the NFL, especially in a running back by committee scheme. I definitely think that that's something I think that he can have his big points in during his first year.
All right. I was waiting on it. We went 31 minutes. We went 31 minutes. Trevor, Maffatone, I might have to send you a shirt. We don't even have shirts, but guess what, Trevor? You're going to get it because we're baiting you. We wanted some Jake Fromm talk, baby. We're going to give it to you. You didn't ask for it. Matter of fact, you clearly don't ask for it. You don't want it. Let's talk about it. Jake Fromm's NFL potential. All right, here's the deal. Checked off the box of 6'2". Here's the deal. Patrick Mahomes, 6'2". Aaron Rodgers, 6'2". Kirk Cousins, 6'2". Russell Wilson, less than 6'2". Okay, a lot of good quarterbacks, some average ones, a lot of great quarterbacks in that 6'2" range. There's only a few out here left, like the Phillip Rivers, who's probably without a job. I don't know if he's going to retire. He did retire. What's going on there? We don't know.
He's going
Okay, he's going somewhere.
He's going to Indy. He'll be in Indy.
Okay. Jacoby Brissett, big quarterback. Tom Brady, big quarterback. Okay. There's still some out here. Andy Dalton, not a big quarterback, 6'2". The average NFL starting height nowadays is 6'2". Jake Fromm, right at it. The problem with the hands, we discussed that. Last night. Just watched last night. It's not a big of a deal. We're not worried about it. Anyways, what do you think of his NFL potential? Give me some NFL comps. I know mine, but go ahead.
Trevor, I'm not gonna lie. I like your analogy. I really do. I actually don't think he's gonna be that great in the NFL. Just personally, I see Chase Daniel with him. I see a guy who was very successful in college, a guy who's definitely going to be able to be put in a pinch kind of situation. Probably get you a few wins, keep your team afloat. This is not a guy who I think is a 10, 15-year starter in the NFL level. I see him as a career, bridge guy, maybe at most Alex Smith kind of player, someone who can take your team, keep you in maybe playoff contention. I would say Chase Daniel or even Ryan Tannehill would be a great comp for it because he's never going to be that guy to get you to that next game, but he can keep you afloat. That's my big thing. And I worry about his deep ball pass. Yeah, the stats are there, proven winner. I'm just not sold that you are going to have a franchise quarterback in Jake Fromm. So I agree with you, Trevor. I really do.
Yeah, that's all fair. There's nothing that tells me that I can sit here and defend him for a first round grade. Okay? There's nothing that sits here and tells me that there's a guarantee what he has right now, what he's succeeded at in the college level is going to translate in the NFL. There's nothing that guarantees that. I know from the neck up, we talk about all the time from the neck up, he's as good as they get, right? I mean, he's going to be able to identify NFL defenses. He's going to be able to have the idea of making correct decisions on an NFL game or during an NFL game on Sundays. What I would like to see, and here's the thing, I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to do so because I don't think he's going to get put into the right system with the opportunity to play early. But what I would like to see is have him play in an offense where he can make quick decisions, something that he's really, really good at. At Georgia early on in the year, man, and it's something I've harped on. No college quarterback turned their backs to the defense more than Jake Fromm in the last 3 years. I mean, all the time. and deep progressions, going deep, 1, 2 to 3, instead of boom, get into a tempo on the third step, drive that back heel into the ground and throw the football and make quick decisions. Something that he's really good at, which is pre-snap identification. It's something I didn't really see Georgia do over the last couple of years, except for late on into those last couple of seasons, or last couple of games into this season, because things were just ended up breaking down. They had to go into empty a lot and into shotgun a lot. So I'm not really sold. I don't know day one. I think the only thing you can say about Jake Fromm is that when he gets to the NFL level, if he's going to succeed, it's going to be based on those around him and not exactly about him and his abilities, right? I think guys like Pat Mahomes and all the elite guys that we talk about, Lamar Jackson, I think you can just throw those guys out onto the pitch and they'll figure it out, right? Out onto the football field, they'll figure out how to win 7 or 8 games by themselves. I don't see that in Jake Fromm's future, and that's I think that's enough to say that right there kind of puts you in that late second to mid third round grade, right, yeah. Cole?
I would say that. Now, let me ask your opinion right now.
Yeah.
If you would pick one team based off the way that their offense is signed and the way that they are, the way they run, where do you think he best fits in the NFL to have a successful career? Because I had a team and they got ruined over the offseason, but who would be your team?
I think a good spot for him to be would maybe go to Minnesota. I mean, he looks identical to Kirk Cousins. I mean, the comp is perfect. Just kind of a quarterback in waiting, because here's the deal. I don't know if they get rid of Stephon Diggs this offseason. I don't know if they trade him, whatever happens there. But I think the kind of the mood around Kirk Cousins is going to kind of simmer down eventually. They're paying that guy a lot of money. I believe it was a 4-year contract, which is up in 2. $384. So it's up very, very soon. They could make a decision on him after this season. So, maybe Minnesota takes like a mid-third, wherever Jake Fromm lands. Here's what I'm afraid of for the rest of the NFL, Cole Thompson, is that, Jake Fromm doesn't have the greatest NFL combine this week, which I don't think he's going to blow it out of the water on field. But my biggest fear for the NFL is that Jake Fromm falls to the top of the 4th round or wherever the New England Patriots are hanging out down there, and nobody's taking him. He's still on the board. Next thing you know, he's in a New England Patriots uniform figuring that thing out. Because what that is neck up out there in Foxborough. That's exactly what it is. It is made grind your butt off and win neck up, okay, and lead folks about how to win with their brain. That's what New England is. And if that happens, if he gets all the way out there or falls to them, like we saw with the kid out of the defensive end out of Michigan last year, that third round pick.
Yeah.
Good God, that third round pick should not have happened. There's no way Clay Matthews Jr. should be out there playing in New England right now. That just shouldn't happen. Not the way that guy plays, too. When you watch him on tape, Winovich is just playing with his hair on fire. And so for that guy to land in New England, similar to Jake Fromm, that's a guy who's going to flat out tear you up with his head if you give him a scheme that's going to get guys open quickly. A 7-on-7 god, Jake Fromm. I mean, holy smokes. Just a smart kid. You can't say enough about it.
Now, hold up, Steve. I kind of like where your head is. I'll give you a compliment for actually one. So you say going to Dallas to back up Dak. I like where your head's at because of the coach of Dallas, coach at the team I think that he actually would best go with right now. How about the Green Bay Packers? A system that Matt LaFleur really helped conjugate. One of the biggest things that he was successful in getting Jared Goff to that Pro Bowl level under Sean McVay out in Los Angeles. If he does the same thing, smart guy who knows how to work with quarterbacks, guy who knows how to get the most out of his players, guys who knows how to get the most out of that system, and learning from one of the best in Aaron Rodgers, who is 35 years old, and we don't know how much longer he has in the NFL. Add all that together, a late third-round pick, which is where I do project a guy like Fromm to go, late third. I think that makes sense. And you have them sit. They don't really have an established backup there. And a guy like Matt LaFleur knows what he wants in his quarterbacks. I think that with Kevin Stefanski no longer in Minnesota, I would see him and Aaron Rodgers getting very well together and kind of building off that as possibly the future of the organization. Because smart guys last in the NFL. And a guy like Jake Fromm will last the NFL, I think, 10 to 12 years as a backup no matter what because of his brain.
All right, so let's talk about this, discussion topic just for a little bit. All right. Easy comparison, but not a lot of people are making it right now. Some people are. Cole, you were around when Aaron Murray was at the University of Georgia. You know about that. What are the draft comparisons? Take it from a strictly draft perspective. If you were to go back to 2013 when Aaron Murray came out in the NFL draft and evaluated him versus this year with Jake Fromm in the 3-year career versus the 4-year career, I'm just going to let you know Aaron Murray's stats are about double, maybe triple of Jake Fromm. Okay, single season to season, career to career. Flat out blows them out of the water. Matter of fact, they blow everybody at the University of Georgia out of the water. So, it just from a pure NFL prospect perspective, where would you evaluate the two? Not knowing, try to take the hindsight out of it. We know what the NFL career of Aaron Murray looks like, but just try to take yourself back to that NFL moment when he's declared for the draft, when he's going through the combine process. Where would you evaluate the two?
Murray, I thought, was probably middle third round grade. I think that there were so many inconsistencies with his overall game and his approach with the deep ball. Kind of similar thing that I see with Jake Fromm. I give him a middle third round grade. I think both of them are proven winners. They both have the stat line to prove that they can get the job done. But the inconsistencies of Fromm this year, I think, put him in that third round range. He has to blow teams out of the water because we know he's going to do well in the interview process. That's a given. We know that with his brain and with his charisma that he had at Georgia, he'll be fine in that part. But he has to blow them out of the water, which Murray was unable to do when he went into the draft. And I think it was, 2013, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, 2013. Yeah. He has to be able to make a name for himself somewhere in the field as either a guy who has the touch on the ball or a guy who can, meet his receivers in the target, kind of already know where they're going, read defenses. He has to do something to separate himself in that Murray comparison because Murray was a 4th-round draft pick, and I think Fromm has a little more upside than Murray, but both were about that mid-3rd-round range was, I think, the average grade for both.
Yeah, so the frame, excuse me, I just dropped myself out there. The difference for me is the frame, right? Aaron Murray came in under 6 foot, Jake Fromm just over 6'2", and when you see, again, a lot like Swift, when you see Fromm, and I know it sounds weird, but it's very, very important. When you see these guys, when you see Fromm from the hips down, very, very thick, right, can hold that NFL frame, can, produce at that level. And the other thing for me, right, it goes back to that head conversation, what they got in between the ears. For me, when I look at Jake Fromm, if the floor is 8, 9, 10 years as an NFL backup, guess what? By God, he's going to be the best NFL, most prepared NFL backup that you could possibly have. So if that's the floor, I guarantee you that we couldn't promise that about Aaron Murray coming out in 2013, 2014. That wasn't guaranteed. I wasn't around covering the beat back then, but I know that there's very few that prepare at it like Jake Fromm does. And I know that there's very few that, like he talked about today, everyone has the dream, but this is a guy that's really gambled on himself this year, Cole, because he was projected to be a 1st-round draft pick last year, headed into, coming out this year. And let's call it. It was not a great junior year with some questionable footwork that he even spoke about today at the combine. So a guy who's gambling on himself who might end up in that 3rd-round range. And Cole, are the articles already being prepped for him if he ends up in that 3rd-round range where we think? Do you still think it was a good decision for him to come out as a junior? And I don't necessarily feel comfortable about judging these decisions, and I don't know how you do. So if you don't feel comfortable, we'll just pass on it. But if you just had to make a blanket statement, do you think 3rd round, came out early as a junior, had an opportunity to return to a top 5 ranked Georgia program for a 4th year? What say you, Cole Thompson? Good or the result? The result is 90th pick. What do you say?
I'm not comfortable doing that because it's just personal. I think that everyone has their own thing. Right now, I say it was not worth it. I think it was worth it. My bad. Here's the reason. He wasn't going to be the number 1 pick next year. I think it's right now going to Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson still right now. The only other person I think in that running is Ohio State's Justin Fields, who was at the University of Georgia before the transfer. Outside of that, everyone's kind of a cluster mess. Anyone could make or break their status. A guy like Kellen Mond at Texas A&M returns to college after a down year. I think he had a 6th-round grade, a 7th-round grade. If he has the same numbers next year, he's an undrafted free agent. That's a done deal. So that could actually hurt his stock instead of going towards the NFL. Meanwhile, Fromm could be a guy who maybe comes back, maybe leads Georgia to a national championship, but at the same time, a guy named Jay Coker led Alabama to a national championship, and he went undrafted. There's always those statistical numbers that play into it, and depending on how the run game is, and if Jamie Newman still transfers to Georgia at the end of the season, I don't think he would have, but just hear me out. Just hear me out. Say he did, and at some point he was replaced. Fromm was replaced by Newman. If that's the case, draft stock hurt. I completely understand and respect his decision to go early. I just wonder, depending on how his NFL career goes, and NFL backups, you have to realize, if they're in the league for 10 to 12 years, money adds up. That $4 million.
Oh my God!
Sitting on that is the move. Chase Daniel play like that. That is my perfect example. Chase Daniel has been in the league. He'll be going on his 11th season right now, or even Josh McCown.
How about Matt Schaub? Matt Schaub. The Atlanta Falcons just picked up Matt Schaub's $2 million deal. Yeah. 14 years into it. Have you watched that guy in preseason? Holy smokes. That looks awesome. I got $2 million. So the backup life's great.
So if he makes that money and it adds all up and he's able to build a business off of that on the side, he is set for life to be able to probably set himself up to be a coach if he wanted to, set himself up to maybe go to whatever program he wanted to be a coordinator, work his way back into that level of field. Plus, he has money saved away for his family and his future in whatever endeavors he does. I don't see it as a problem if he can remain somewhere in the NFL on a roster. And I think with his mind and his attitude, he will at least be on the roster. A guy like Chase Daniel is a guy I always look at. He's charisma, he's smart, and he has a presence in the locker room that people gravitate to. Fromm has very similar statistics in that sense, and also very similar charisma and style that he brought to the field in Athens. I could see him being in the NFL for 10 to 12 years, even as a backup, and money talks, and he will get paid to be on some roster.
So here's my thing, and here's why I think, barring some type of fourth-round selection, fifth-round selection, or some bad thing like that to happen this year for Jake Fromm, I think he made the right decision, period. Because like we talked about, he's not going to be the number one overall pick next year. He wasn't going to go back to Georgia and suddenly be able to throw rockets, right? He wasn't going to go back to Georgia and suddenly be able to run a 4.6. Like that kind of progression in his game wasn't going to happen. Now, could he have gone back and thrown for 3,400 yards and 33 scores and, won a national championship like you mentioned, Cole? Yes. Could he have potentially moved that projected third-round draft pick that we think is going to be right now? That's just projection and rumors and speculation at this point. If that's where it settles, could that type of senior year moved him up into the second round? Sure. But still, second-round draft pick, third-round draft pick. Bottom line, when Jake Fromm enters an NFL camp, he is not going to be the guaranteed starter, and he's going to have to do exactly what he had to do for 2 straight years at the University of Georgia, which is earn a spot to play on Saturday, now turned Sunday. So I don't think it would have mattered. And that's why I think, again, barring a 4th or 5th round selection, I think he made the right decision. Just go. Just get out and go. And it's not like Georgia's hurting. Like you mentioned, Jamie Newman is going to be a flat-out baller. Had a source tell me the other day that there's no reason to believe this guy isn't going to flat-out ball out and be in Heisman contention and be in this discussion next year when we turn around and talk about first-round quarterbacks in that selection. If Jordan Love is making his way into first-round talks, you don't think Jamie Newman his way into that? A 6'4", 230-pound quarterback that's going to ball out. I'm telling you, he's going to ball out in the SEC this year and have those projectables moving forward and have about 30 starts underneath his belt, 31 starts underneath his belt, and quality ones at that. So it's not like he left Georgia in harm's way. I think it's okay. Move on. Go get your money, go get your bread, because there was no more progression for you here, son. Go on. Move on. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with that. And then also the mobility factor is always going to be something that you look at, and Newman has that, I think, a little bit more. UGA is going to be in good hands with Jamie Newman, I think. So at the end of the day, Jake Fromm left the program, bringing them to a national championship, which is something when was the last time they went to a national championship before that? 1992, was it?
I couldn't tell you, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it was 20.
And even then, was it really a national championship, or was it, because it's BCS back then? Yeah.
Either way, he brought them back to that relevancy. And yeah, Trevor, I get what you're saying. 2 first-round running backs, even though Chubb wasn't in the first round, I would have given him a first-round grade with Sony Michel. I understand where you come with that, but he did help bring them back. You can never take away what he did through the air that year to where I understand where Jake Fromm's legacy, his legacy is never going to be tarnished. His legacy as a Georgia quarterback will stand still. In one of those in the last decade, probably up there with Stafford and Murray. Murray's still heralded as a great quarterback in UGA history. And no matter what Fromm's NFL career is, I still think he will have the same type of historic remembrance at Athens.
I wish he would have been, and I'm not even a fan of the team or anything like that. I'm just a guy who covers it. As a guy who watched that guy play this year, I wished fans of Georgia would have just kind of respected him a little bit more and appreciated him a little bit more, because guys like that, consistency like that is not just guaranteed. No. They don't just walk in the door every single, 4 years. I mean, I know Georgia's extremely, extremely blessed right now with the quarterback depth that they have, with the transfer in Newman, a 4-star in Carson Beck, a 4-star in DeJuan Mathis, Stetson Bennett, who's gotten all kinds of love and praise from coaches on staff and looked great in spring games, and it doesn't get deeper. Brock Vandergriff on the way in 2021. So I understand all that. The quarterback future at Georgia looks great, but I just wish it would have been a little bit more appreciation and not all this, hate towards him. And all that, to me, stems from a guy we already talked about, and it's the guy who wears number 1 in red and silver and black up there in Ohio State. Right? It's all tied to Justin Fields. And for that matter, when in 2017, about week 7 or week 8 or whenever it was, when Jacob Eason was back on that roster and back throwing footballs, there were people that wanted to see Eason back plugged in or having the opportunity to play again. So the whole entire time, I just felt like there was some appreciation for him. There were some people screaming, "That's my quarterback," and things like that. But to me, it just seemed like there wasn't as much appreciation, and I hope it's more of like a presidency, right? During presidency, now we don't talk politics, but just look over approval ratings is what we're talking about here. While they're in office, not great. When they leave, appreciate did while they were there.
Oh, of course, it always goes up. Because somebody loses and somebody wins, so they always are going to go up.
Who's out, me or you? Was that me or you? Who was out? Me?
That was you.
That was me that was out. Okay, sorry, guys. It was me that was out. Anyways, I think it's a lot like, similar to a political regime or policy. Not as much appreciation while you're there. Going to appreciate you a lot more for what you did while you were there, long after you're gone.
And here's the biggest thing of all. What happens if Jacob Eason comes in? Do they win the national championship? What happens if Justin Fields comes in? Do they go past 2 times to the Sugar Bowl? You don't know. Here's what you do know. Jake Fromm took you to 2 Sugar Bowl appearances and a national championship appearance. That's what you know. And he was able to help beat Oklahoma to get you there in that game at the Rose Bowl. You have to appreciate him because of what you got with him. You have no idea what you would have gotten with either of the other quarterbacks.
All right, Cole, we have got to get out of here, man. This is supposed to be a 30-minute show. We've gone almost an hour the last 2 nights. I know it's fun. We have fun. That's the problem. We just get to talking and get to rolling. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We'll patch Cole out. Cole, say goodbye to the folks. AllAggies.com. Go check him out. Wave. We'll see you. He did that cool little, Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter. Follow him there, too. All right, Cole, we'll see you later. Hey, man, quit winking at people. That was just weird, man. That felt weird. I felt violated. I don't know about the audience. But anyways, SEC Nightly, we do this, Monday through Friday. Typically 9 p.m. Tonight it was a 10 p.m. start. Sometimes that happens on Tuesdays. That might end up happening on Wednesdays nowadays. I got this intramural life, man. Former athletes, we got to get our fix somehow. And that's how I do it. I play intramural sports, whether it be basketball or softball, hitting nukes into the night sky. I enjoy doing that sometimes on the softball field. So if anybody needs a ringer, hit me up, man. You guys know where to find me. Rather decent at the sport, so hit me up, and we'll win some games, man. We'll get some dubs. Anyways, SEC Nightly Monday through Friday starts at 9, all that good stuff. While you're here, before you head out, man, take the time to check out the YouTube page. Steve, 7 your time. Appreciate you, brother. I know 6, bro, you've been catching us at 6 p.m. out on the West Coast. You are the absolute man, Steve Highland. Listener of the year for that guy right there. Viewer of the year out there on the West Coast picking us up on basically almost his drive time home. I don't know what the work schedule is out there, Steve Highland. But anyways, back to what we're talking about. Check out the YouTube page. We just got done comparing Keely Ringo to Patrick Peterson. Man, you guys will find out. Hey, Georgia, stop feeding me 5 stars, and I'll stop with the Hall of Fame comparisons, okay? The last one I did was Jalen Carter to Aaron Donald, so I apologize, but, stop handing me 5 stars. Stop handing me guys that are expected to go first round in a couple of years, okay? And I'll stop doing this Patrick Peterson to an 18-year-old kid, okay? Sorry. Anyways, Brian, you jumped in late here. Check it out. Podcast is available. It'll be up right after tonight's show. I got to get out of here. Don't know what I'm going to do. Might do some more film study. We'll figure it out. Appreciate you guys for being here. We will see you. As always, I've been your humble host, Brooks Austin. Check us out on Twitter. I don't know why I rushed the exit when I wasted an hour being way, way, way too long. So we'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow night.